Hello and welcome to Good Morning Thailand. It is a sunny Monday and today's a different type of episode because this week Tim will be taking a well-deserved leave of absence and a holiday. He's sitting somewhere on Mai Khao Beach or a private island. He won't tell us where he is, sipping on his coconut. So joining me all this week is going to be Michael Kenner.
Hey.
Hi, Mike.
Good morning.
How was your weekend, Mike?
It was absolutely fantastic.
Fantastic. And I hope all your weekends were fantastic too. Now, we've got a lot to talk about today, a couple of headlines from the weekend, but starting off the show today will be the COVID update. So, Mike, let me just give you a quick update. We had 13,988 new cases, 187 new COVID-related deaths, 17,284 people have been recovered, and we still have 148,622 patients still in care. Now, from those numbers, we still have around 4,600 people who are still in serious conditions. That number has gone down slightly. However, 1,013 people still on artificial respiration. That number has actually gone up slightly. So the number of cases are dropping. The number of deaths have also dropped slightly. So I hope this trend continues.
Yeah, I think it's a strange one though in general because in Thailand, I believe, I might be mistaken, but what I've read is they do around 60,000 tests a day on average.
Yes.
And they're testing positive 15 to 20% of all the people testing are testing positive.
Okay.
If you compare that for like to like with, say, the UK, similar population that has 60 to 70 million people as well, they're doing close to 1 million tests a day.
Yeah.
So do these numbers actually mean anything? In general, we understand that out of 60,000, X amount is testing positive, but why would other countries with similar population do over 20 times the amount of daily testing? So, if they tested 1 million, well, would they find a lot more?
I guess they probably find more. I guess they don't have the facilities or the resources to do that many tests as much as probably what they're doing in UK. But you have a point there. I think a lot of our viewers also agree with the same thing. A lot of the viewers say, why do we even bother talking about the COVID infections or the deaths or the stats in general? However, I feel it is our duty to present the facts and the information at the start of the show, and these are the numbers for Thailand today. But I agree with you, Mike. The number of testing done in Thailand is significantly lower compared to countries like UK. They are trying to ramp it up and ramp up the amount of vaccination, so I guess we'll just have to hope that these numbers continue to fall down. I guess it gives a sense of security and a sense of what's going on in Thailand to a lot of people out there.
Sure.
Right. So before we go into our topics today, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back today talking about all the headlines of Thailand. But for now, here are the top stories in Thailand today.
Hi, I'm Kate from the Thaiger with today's top headlines. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha won his vote of confidence after a 4-day censure debate against his government, where he was accused by some of mishandling the COVID-19 pandemic. Prayut and 5 top ministers who were also targeted in the debate responded to questions about COVID-19 vaccine procurement, economic assistance programs, and disease control measures. One member of parliament had even accused the prime minister of handing out payments in return for votes in his favor. The prime minister won with 264 votes of confidence against 208 no confidence votes. 5 ministers, including the public health minister, also won a vote of confidence. Prayut received the most votes of no confidence. A former Deputy Attorney General is facing disciplinary action for his decision not to indict the Red Bull heir, known by his nickname Boss, over the fatal hit-and-run incident in 2012, where Boss sped his Ferrari through Bangkok's Thong Lor district and struck a police officer, killing him. Boss managed to evade justice and fled the country. The Deputy Attorney General's decision to drop the charges sparked national outrage, and last year an investigation panel was set up to determine if the Deputy Attorney General should face disciplinary action over his handling of the case. The 5-member panel found him guilty of faulty performance of his duty. They recommend that he be deprived of his pension and promotions for 2 years and that he should not be appointed as senior prosecutor. The panel's decision is not official. The recommendation still needs to be discussed by the Prosecution Commission. The now-ousted police station chief, accused of killing a drug suspect by placing plastic bags over the man's head to suffocate him, has denied charges of intent to kill. The former district police superintendent in Nakhon Sawan says he just assaulted the suspect. The ex-cop, who is known as Joe Ferrari for his collection of cars, has been charged with premeditated murder by means of torture. The defendant's attorney said that while the former officer covered the suspect's head with plastic bags, he did not intend to kill him. Video footage of the incident shows police placing plastic bags over the victim's head, then beating him as he fell to the ground. 6 other police officers who were allegedly involved in the incident also faced charges. While the Samui Plus reopening scheme has been off to a slow start, the Surat Thani governor announced the program has brought in more than 37 million baht in tourism revenue. Since the program started in mid-July, 918 people have traveled under the scheme, including 347 people who initially entered Thailand in Phuket through the island's Sandbox scheme. Most arrivals were from European countries and the United States. Samui Plus allows travelers from overseas who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 to travel to Koh Samui and the neighboring islands under sealed routes during their first 14 days of their stay in Thailand. The scheme is also included in the 7+7 island hop extension, allowing travelers who entered through the Phuket Sandbox to travel on sealed routes to the Surat Thani Islands. A 31-year-old woman in the Isan province, Nakhon Phanom, has been arrested with more than 4 million speed pills. The woman works as a vendor making samtam, which is spicy papaya salad, but she says she was having financial trouble due to the COVID-19 pandemic and started trafficking drugs to make more money for her family. She allegedly told police that she was paid 200,000 baht for her first delivery last month. Border Patrol searched the woman's pickup truck and seized 10 fertilizer sacks containing the illegal drugs. And those are the top headlines today. Now back to the show.
Good morning. You're watching Good Morning Thailand with me, Jay, and Mike.
Hey!
Mike's in the office today because Tim's on a break. Now, Mike, today's main headline today on the Bangkok Post was talking about vaccinations and how people will be required to be fully vaccinated or have a negative PCR test before they can enter restaurants starting October 1st in dark red provinces that have maximum restrictions. Now, again, it seems like a U-turn in what we had news from last week. At first they said, for example, Bangkok, once the Bangkok Sandbox started that you would need to be fully vaccinated. Then last week they said that you don't need to be fully vaccinated and you can enter restaurants. But now it seems, well, they say dark red zones. We don't know if Bangkok will shift down from a dark red zone. However, currently, again, they've started saying that you will need fully vaccinations to get into restaurants. So people have mixed feelings about this. What do you feel about this?
I think there's a few aspects to this. Firstly, the government is the first one. I mean, they're definitely flip-flopping on the issue around do we actually allow this to happen or disallow this to happen with these vaccine passports for certain establishments. But I think this is no different from anywhere else, as in there is no government, I don't think, across the world that is coming up with a standardised message that is consistent to the general public in relation to the COVID transition from a pre-COVID, kind of to a post-COVID world. So I think Thailand government is definitely flip-flopping on the rules and changing the rules, which doesn't help anyone, let's be honest. But I don't think this is not happening anywhere else. I think the core question is about our liberties and freedoms and how much is this really being affected. And I've listened and watched quite a lot of rhetoric on the internet around this, because my take is that currently all our liberties and freedoms are currently affected. I mean, Thailand is in a state of predominantly lockdown in most provinces. So when we talk about freedom and liberty, Well, currently we have very, very limited. So they're looking for a way to actually bring back more freedom and more liberty by providing these vaccine passports. I mean, if there wasn't a lockdown and was saying you have to stay at home after 9 p.m, I would say, well, okay, we're suddenly going to introduce a vaccine passport. There is no restrictions. That would be difficult to choke. But does this lead to more freedom and more liberty than what we currently have now in Thailand?
It's good that you talked about the vaccination passports. Now, it has been talk for a while now that that might be the way forward. Now, due to the current restrictions, they're saying that customers will be required to fill in a form detailing their infection risk throughout the government's Thai Save Thai app. Now, do you think people will actually follow all of this? I mean, would you go through all this trouble to just to go dine out?
Well, I think a lot of the people are saying, oh, you're going to have to sign forms and this. Let's be honest, we live in a digital age. This is just going to be an app which is on your phone, which you have your vaccines connected to, and you'll literally be scanning in.
Okay.
And, and so the question is should you have to show this app to walk into a restaurant or a hairdresser's? Well, some establishments require you to show your ID anyway going in. That could be basically, whether you're an over 18 venue or even some government, buildings, or so people. These rules already are in place and restrict our freedoms. And for example, can you walk into a shop without shoes on, out of your choice? They will say, hey, you probably need shoes, or would you be able to wear zero top walking in? I just think if you're a private establishment and your enterprise and you say, well, we don't feel comfortable with people without vaccines coming in, and your staff agree with this, then it'll be their choice to implement this or not. So I think if you don't want to be vaccinated, which is fine,
okay,
then don't go to that restaurant. Choose another restaurant. Maybe that restaurant won't do so well. But
sure.
But the question is, should the government enforce this, or should this be self-enforced by enterprise?
But what would you say, for argument purposes, what would you say to, because some people might try to abuse this. What if this leads to discrimination, or this leads to, there are people out there who can't get vaccines? Now, what I'm getting to is that I want to show you a video. Now, here's a video that was actually shot yesterday, I believe. This is a video from a car park at Future Park in Rangsit. Now, this is the reality of how things have gotten and the length to which people are willing to get vaccinated. Why can't we register for appointments? Why can't there be no organization? This is just possibly another cluster. Now we're talking about getting people vaccinated, getting people back in, getting the country booming. But if this is the current situation of where we are, where you've got thousands and thousands of people bumbled up together in a parking lot just to get vaccines, how can we then tell, only vaccinated people are allowed in? So if we don't have enough vaccines, we don't have the proper organization to get people vaccinated, how can we then ask people to get vaccinated and then only be allowed to come into restaurants?
So you get a fair point, but I think the numbers are speaking for themselves at the moment. There is around 500,000 people being vaccinated on a daily basis, bar Sunday. So they're estimating 10 million of vaccinated new vaccinations in any given month. Now, you account for the population, they are moving very, very quickly on this. I know the video which is just shown is an absolute mess.
Yeah.
I mean, but this is the reality, right? The vaccination program is a mess. People are scrambling around for vaccines because Thailand has waited so long to roll this out. But if you then go to the issue at hand, in terms of how do we do this? I mean, how do we open restaurants? Restaurants are not open. So are we saying keep them closed? Is that what you're saying? Or are we saying that let them open with this vaccine passport? I mean, and when we look at discrimination, this is already in existence. There is discrimination. Sometimes you go into a restaurant, they say, hey, you can't come in wearing that shirt. You need to dress nicer. You need to wear shoes. Yeah, you're too short. I mean, this happens everywhere.
You're too short.
Maybe not for
at a theme park.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? There is discrimination on every accountability. I think let's not pretend that this doesn't exist anyway. And when you go on a plane, which is a normal travel, even domestically, you have to show your ID. Yes. You cannot go on the plane without showing your ID. There are some trains that enforce you to show your ID.
Okay.
So in terms of showing, and now they're saying when you go into any restaurant or any establishment, you have to scan the QR code online.
Okay.
So you have to give up your details and give up your freedom and your civil liberties. This is already happening. So I can't see it being much of a change. And so I'm not too sure where the fuss fully is around this whole you need a vaccine passport. I understand that if you're not vaccinated and you can't go into the restaurant and you literally want to be vaccinated and you can't find one, that would be a difficult thing to kind of chew. But if vaccines are now becoming readily available to the whole Thai population, then I think it's a fair thing to put in place. It's not just happening in Thailand. We're seeing in Australia, the UK are doing it, not in the restaurants, but not, venues of capacity. So that's where it's starting. But could this be rolled out in other? And these are very liberal countries. So for Thailand to be adopting a similar approach, I don't think it's a terrible decision.
Well, Mike, I guess everyone will have their own opinion about it, and you can make your opinion about it too. And we'll be back just after a quick break talking about the Phuket Sandbox. See you in 2. Philippine Airlines filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in New York with a lender-supported plan that helps the country's main carrier recover after the pandemic devastated global travel. Britain's senior climate change official Alok Sharma arrived in Tianjin on Sunday to meet representatives from the government and business to ensure the November summit is successful. ICUs in Selangor, Johor, and Penang surpassed 90% capacity as Malaysia reports 20,396 new COVID-19 cases. Tokyo has bid a colourful farewell to the Paralympics on Sunday after 12 days of stereotype-defying, record-shattering performances despite a year-long pandemic delay. Hong Kong media group Next Digital announced on Sunday that it aimed to go into liquidation and its board of directors had resigned to facilitate the process. Welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Thailand with me, Jay, and Mike's in the studio. Now, we've come back from our second break, and now we're going to talk about the Phuket Sandbox. Now, some people think that the Phuket Sandbox has been a great success. Not many. However, there are also people who've been very critical of the Phuket Sandbox. Now, I've got some figures here that I'd like to talk about. The officials have come out and said and given some numbers out. So, since the start of July 1st, Mike, in the Phuket Sandbox, there have been a total of 28,197 international travelers who have come onto the island. Now, the majority of the people have been returning Thai people coming back to the country, but the second most tourists have come from US and the third, UK. Now, the Phuket governor, Narong Wunseo, has reported official figures of 1.634 billion baht that has been generated over the last 2 months. Now, my first feeling when I saw that number, 1.634 billion baht, was, could that be right? Is that much money been generated by 28,000 people who, majority of them are just returning back to Thailand, going back home? Has this much money been spent, or has this much money helped the economy of Thailand?
So I think it's the way you account for numbers. So there is ways of accounting for numbers and making these numbers look better in favour of an economy. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. If a consumer goes and spends 1,000 baht, there's something called the multiplier effect. So I go in 7-Eleven and spend 1,000 baht. That 7-Eleven will then spend 1,000 baht for their wages. That 1,000 baht for the wages will then go and buy some groceries. So effectively that 1,000 baht becomes 5,000 baht of expenditure. And I'm not too sure how they're accounting for the amount of money generated, but there's always of making the figures look more attractive than they are.
Yeah. Well, talking about figures, they had said that they had expected around 100,000 arrivals. Now they have, I think, 1 month or a little more than 1 month to reach that target. However, currently it's at 28,000, so I don't think they're going to reach that number. However, on other news, starting December 1st, a lot of the private sectors and the Phuket owners of hotels have come out and said that they would want the island to be fully reopened by December 1st. Now, what do you think about that? So, no quarantine or no restrictions. They want the island to be fully open by December 1st, saying that it can bring around 210 billion baht in tourism-related revenue. What do you think?
I think in general that would be a good thing. I mean, my weekend was spent. I spent my weekend in Nai Han, but going through towards Nai Han, so Nai Han's on the other side of the island from where we are. But going through Patong and Karon, and showing my family what had happened to these areas. There is large spread devastation in relation to businesses here. People can't afford to eat. They need to really bring, what is worse here? The one person who died in the last 24 hours, or people starving all over the country, specifically in the tourism areas mainly, because there is no business to be made. So I think really, the market has, otherwise we're just going to be stuck in a situation for a long time. I mean, if we look at Israel as a comparison, who has a very heavily vaccinated, population, they are seeing mass outbreaks now of COVID. And they've got everyone has been, 70+% has been double vaccinated with Pfizer. So the question is that what do you do? If we get to a fully vaccinated state, which we're currently in, we know this is going to outbreak afterwards. I mean, there's several reasons for this. Number one, I think the vaccine, in terms of the immunity, doesn't last that long. That's why you need these booster shots. So where do we go? Where do we go with this? I mean, as it stands, the adult population of Phuket are, I think, over 90% vaccinated currently as it stands.
Yes, that's correct.
Especially with the first jab, and I think 67. And I know I've got my second jab coming up in a few weeks. So we're going to move to a fully vaccinated, adult population. So what do? Keep this whole restrictions in place? I mean, the Sandbox has to end at some point.
Yeah.
From my experience watching my parents come through, and being double vaccinated and then being tested 3 to 4 times while they're here, it doesn't make much sense, considering there is local transmission already happening anyway. So I think it would be a good thing to open up and bring back commerce into Thailand, especially the tourist industries.
Well, I believe they're calling it Freedom Day. So December 1st, Vice President of Phuket Tourism Association, Kun Nantida Atisade, said, "We can't continue this way. Hotels are suffering losses. What we need is Freedom Day on December 1st." And they're going to submit their proposal to the island's reopening. And the new campaign, yes, will be called Phuket Freedom Day. So, I mean, you're right. It will save a lot of jobs. And how long can we continue like this? You're right. Phuket Sandbox in some way has been a success. We have seen that a lot of people can still travel to Phuket with the right documentation, with negative results, and the outbreak in Phuket or the spike in cases has definitely not come from the Sandbox itself. The Sandbox has actually been a success if you compare it to the amount of infections that have gone up in Phuket. They've been more locally produced, or people coming in from other provinces. That's how it's actually gone up. So a lot of people would, I think, agree with you, Mike.
Yeah, and the death rate has remained very low within Phuket specifically.
Within Phuket, yes.
Yeah, so the death rate is very low. With one odd person dying every 24 hours, which is obviously terrible. But this is the reality of the situation. I think it's not really about the hotels, it's about the people working in the hotels. Whether the hotels, who are, usually large corporations are making money. I mean, that's not really where I'm at. It's the people, the staff, the waiters, the bellboys, the drivers, and all these people, they need jobs. And I see them everywhere without any jobs or any food to eat or any way to actually fend off, for themselves, their families. So if everyone cares about these people, open up Phuket, open up Thailand, get the economy moving again, and we'll have to learn to deal with COVID while it's here with our vaccination program and the measures that are in place by the government.
All right, Mike, let me tell you something that I don't completely agree with. Now, when they're talking about Phuket Freedom Day and opening these, new campaigns and new proposals. Now they're saying that they're going to try to attract 3.5 million tourists during the months of December to March next year, which is actually exactly half the amount of people before COVID took place. Now, if they're attracting 28,000 people during the Sandbox, how on earth do they think they're going to attract 3.5 million people from December to March? I mean, do you think that during this time until we reach December, things are going to improve so significantly that this large amount of people will travel to Phuket?
I mean, I'm just thinking about it. I mean, so if we assume we're in September now, so we've got 3 to 4 months at the end of the year. So if they can roll out 10 million vaccines a month, we might be in a state where we hit critical mass on the vaccinations. Okay, that would be the first thing. I think the numbers they're talking about are aggressive.
Yes.
Yeah, they are
highly optimistic.
Yeah, they are very aggressive. I think the question is that as this whole term progresses, is the world just going to be accepting that COVID is here and there is nothing we can do besides vaccinations, and we have to get on with life and, you know, go back to, you know, enjoying our freedoms, which is travelling, which is going to amazing countries like Thailand and enjoying your travels? Or are we just going to all start home and be like, well, COVID is here forever, so all our lives are going to change dramatically? I think that will be the golden question. I don't think they're going to hit the numbers they're talking about. But I do believe that over the next 6 months, the world is going to learn to accept that once the vaccine programs are here, that and they're working or not working, what else is there really to be done? I mean, you know, we would have to go back to some normality at some point. So I would like to think this would work. I think it will be heavily optimistic if it does.
Well, we'd love to see what you have to say about this. December 1st, Phuket Freedom Day. Would you come to Thailand or would you come to Phuket? Let us know in the comments section below. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you for joining us. And if you liked the video, please click like and subscribe to our channel. We're going to be ending the show with the weather. But as for now, I'd like to thank Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Jason behind the buttons. Very well done, Jason. And I'd like to thank Tim, who's at some beach enjoying his lovely coconuts under the sunshine of Phuket. I don't know where he is right now, but that location we can't disclose. But thank you once again for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Starting the weather off in Bangkok today with an average temperature of 26 degrees Celsius, we have good air quality. On Monday, starting of the day, there will be 33 degrees Celsius, going to 25 degrees at night with possible light showers. Moving to Phuket with an average temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, we have moderate air quality. During the day, we have 28 degrees Celsius, going down to 25 with no showers on Monday. Next, we go to the province of Nakhon Ratchasima with 22 degrees Celsius and moderate air quality. On a bright Monday morning, we have a 28 degrees Celsius temperature going down to 22 at night with a possible chance of rain. Now moving to Chiang Mai, we have 23 degrees Celsius average temperature and good air quality. On a bright Monday morning, it's 31 degrees Celsius going down to 22 at night with possible showers. Moving forward to Cha Am in Phetchaburi, Thailand, 25 degrees Celsius average temperature with good air quality. On a bright Monday morning, we have 31 degrees Celsius temperature going down to 24 at night with again a possible chance of showers. And finally to Ban Lamung in Chonburi, Thailand, we have again good weather with 26 degrees Celsius average weather. On a bright Monday morning, 29 degrees Celsius and 25 down at night with once again some possible showers. And that's the weather for today.